Hi, welcome to another IELTS video. On occasion, I receive emails asking how to effectively make use of the 1 minute that you're given to prepare for part 2 of the speaking exam. And in this video, I just want to go over a strategy to help you make the most of this brief period of time. If you find this video helpful, please visit IELTSnetwork.com and my blog at IELTSwritingblog.com. So in part 2 of the speaking exam, you're given a cue card that looks something like this, and it has 3 questions that you must respond to and sometimes a little something extra, and we have that here today. So it reads, describe a trip you took. You should say where you went, what you did, why you traveled there, and explain something that made the trip memorable. So my advice to you is, in the minute that you're given, note simply keywords that will spur certain thoughts in the moment, because as you start speaking, you won't have time to read little sentences that you've written or anything like that. You will be speaking, and you will be just looking for little keywords that can help to keep you going and to maintain a certain fluency in your response. So I would very quickly just sort of stream of thought, come up with keywords that pop into your mind as you look at these questions. So for me, I'm going to talk about a trip I took to the UAE. I'm going to break that up into two parts. One is about taking a trip to Dubai. The second will be, I might share a sentence or two about going to Abu Dhabi. And sometimes it's helpful to branch as long as you're on topic, branch your response out a little bit, because if you do start to lose momentum, you might be able to switch to something that's still related to what the topic is, but that you have more to say about. Okay, so very quickly. Okay, so what did you do there? Okay, well, in Dubai, let's see, very quickly. Now, this is what I would be writing on my card. I'm just thinking about things randomly. So I would talk about climate, I would talk about food, I might talk about architecture, of course. What else would I talk about? I talk about friends, talk about nightlife, maybe. Okay, and then Abu Dhabi, very quickly, I'm noting this on my paper. Abu Dhabi, what would I talk about? Well, I visited a very interesting oasis while I was there, so I'm going to talk about that. Why did I go? Well, the main reason was because I was renewing a visa, and but the other main reasons were I was visiting friends, and because I lived in Dubai before, I wanted to see how the city had changed, how the country had changed. I hadn't been there in 5 years, so it was a kind of going to visit a few of my old haunts, as people say in English, the old places that I used to frequent. Okay, and then, so finally, what was memorable about it? Well, several things. Well, firstly, I was there with my wife, and it was her first time in the UAE, so I might talk about how it was interesting to kind of relive that through her eyes. I was able to relive old memories, like I had mentioned before, and also we were there during the celebrations for New Year's 2013. So this would be what I would note very quickly, just stream of thought, get this down on the paper, and now I have several things that I can jump around to talk about if I start to lose my momentum. Now, another thing I encourage students to do, and you should be doing lots of practice of this sort of noting within a minute, because that's a really vital skill to have when you get into the examination. Now, if you have maybe 10 seconds or 20 seconds left in your minute, try to think of certain academic vocabulary that you could apply to the answer. So, for example, when I think of Dubai, I think of a place that's dynamic. Okay, so I'm going to note the word dynamic here, because sometimes when we get into the speaking, we might forget to use academic vocabulary, and if we can, while we have this free moment to kind of brainstorm, if we can just note these small vocab words, and then we can try to include them in our speaking as we're moving along. So I might use the word dynamic. Let's see, now what else pops into my mind? So if you look here, renewing visa, visiting friends, charges, should change it. Renewing the visa, that's the primary reason I'm going. So I might write the word primary just to remind myself to use it, maybe secondary. And now memorable, I have here 1, 2, 3 things. So an academic way to say 3 things might be threefold. Okay, so I'm very quickly just going to note a few academic words that also pop into my mind when I look at my own notes here. And then I'm going to try to use these words in my response. Okay, so now our minute is up and we are asked to deliver our talk. So I'm going to record myself as I deliver this, and afterwards we can go back and listen, and I'll point out a few of the ways that I link the ideas together. And you know, my strategy is just, I'm going to go through these questions one by one. I'm just going to state where I went, I'm going to state what I did, and then I'm going to state why I traveled there, and finally memorable. I'm not going to mix things up at all. Some people might want to tie, you know, why you went there into where you went. For example, I mean, I could start by saying, I went to the UAE because I needed to renew my visa. I could do that, but I don't want to. I just want to go one by one, and that's fine. And I'm going to link them together using cohesive devices. So this response should be pretty good. Okay, and so just to make it easier, I'm going to insert a page break. Get this all into one page. Okay, so let's start the response. I'm going to record it. My wife and I went to the UAE in late December of last year. We stayed in Dubai for several weeks, which I think is a very dynamic and exciting city. While there, my wife and I visited several architectural wonders, such as the Burj Dubai, which is currently the tallest structure in the world. We also visited reclaimed land projects like the Palm Jumeirah. We tried many wonderful Arabic foods like dolma. Dolma is rice wrapped in grape leaves and soaked in vinegar. It's very delicious. Because I used to live in Dubai, we also spent time visiting my old friends and catching up with them. And after this stretch in Dubai, we bussed to the capital of the UAE, Abu Dhabi, and had a guided tour of a natural oasis, which was very charming. Our primary reason for traveling to the UAE was not leisure, actually. It was to renew our Qatari visas. As with many countries, this renewal process involves leaving the host country and then re-entering. But catching up with friends and seeing how Dubai has changed since I was last there were also parts of our part of our decision to go. I suppose what made the trip most memorable is threefold. For one, my wife had never been, so it was great being a part of her first time to the UAE. Secondly, as I mentioned, it was wonderful revisiting several of my old haunts and witnessing firsthand how the country is developing and continues to develop. And thirdly, I'll never forget the amazing New Year's Eve celebrations outside of the Burj Dubai. There was a stunning fireworks display and loads of excited people. It was a great time. So that's our trip to the UAE in a nutshell. Okay, and that clocks in at just over 1:50, so that's about right. And then your examiner would likely start asking you questions, and so if I was in the exam, my examiner would ask me, oh, you know, tell me about the oasis, what happened there, and maybe can you elaborate a bit more on the friends that you had there, what did you do with them, these sorts of things. So the examiner will try to spur a bit of conversation there. I used very specific examples. So I talked about the Burj Dubai, I talked about the Palm Jumeirah, I talked about that food dolma, and that helps to give a bit more of a tangible air to the answer. And I think that in setting up a structure before you start to speak about certain things is helpful. For example, when I was talking about renewing the visa and saying that this was the primary reason that we went to the UAE, this sets up a certain hierarchy in the thought, because then of course we've stated this is the reason we went. There are also these subsequent reasons which were also important, and I think that gives the response a sense of structure. Now I used the part about it being memorable. What made the trip memorable was threefold. And then I went through the different reasons. So it was my wife's first time. We were reliving memories. It was New Year's 2013. So I hope that lesson and the breakdown of how to use that 1 minute was helpful. I would like to hear your responses to the same cue card. So if you would like to come to IELTSnetwork.com and deliver a recorded version of your response, that would be great. And I encourage you to use some of the linking phrases that I used in my response, and perhaps also you could use some of the key vocabulary that I was suggesting here. For example, dynamic, primary, secondary, threefold. I think if you were to use these words, it would add some weight to your response as well. So I hope that video was helpful. Thanks for watching and have a nice day.